Today's incredible adventure begins looking at the exterior of the Calhoun County Courthouse here in Anniston, Alabama. As of the recording of this, today is Sunday, April 28th, 2024. And the reason we start looking at the courthouse is because today's incredible topic is going to be another darker subject, even though it's a bright sunny day. Walking down the street of downtown Anniston, Alabama, a lot of these shops look pretty dilapidated and, oh, pardon me, bud. And wait a minute, I know this guy. Steve Joyner from Thresher PR.
You know where the library is?
The library? I have no idea where the library is.
Hey, let me show you something real quick.
All right.
Are you doing a vlog? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm vlogging right now.
Oh, yes, here.
To all my subscribers and followers, this gentleman who is with me today is the one and only Steve Joyner of Thresher PR, a wonderful man and my manager. And what a great manager he is.
All right. Well, we are in Hill Valley, and this is the famous building here. The clock tower used to be right up there, and it was back in 1955 that Doc Brown rigged a cable all the way to that over there. See that? See those two wires right there, Zach?
Yeah.
And then if you follow my finger back that way, go back there, that's where Marty McFly got the DeLorean up to 88 miles per hour and drove it down said street here. And there's a lightning storm which caused a lightning electrical fuse. I'm not science, but anyway, he hit it there, and that's where the point where Marty went back to 1985 right there.
Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting.
Back in time.
Back in time.
Yes.
That is incredible. Wow. I wonder if this car is going back to 1985. They don't go back now.
Save your parents.
He slowed down. I think he heard us. That's good.
So anyway, that's just your history for today. Thank you.
History lesson 101. Welcome, everyone. Zach the Incredible Impression here. I'm in Anniston, Alabama, and I'm with my awesome manager, Mr. Steve Joyner of Thresher PR.
What are we doing in Anniston, Alabama?
Today we are vlogging a dark subject, Steve. Back in the early 70s, there was a lady that lived here named Marie Hilley.
Okay.
And she became known as the Black Widow of Anniston. This little...
She's not around anymore, is she?
No. She's long gone.
Okay.
She's dead.
Okay. All right, so go ahead.
So back in the 70s, let's backtrack a bit. In the 50s, she married her high school sweetheart. His name was, what was his name? Frank Hilley. Frank Hilley.
Yeah.
And they went to school here in Anniston. They knew each other. They grew up together, decided to get married, and they had two children, Mike and Carol Hilley.
Nice story so far.
Yeah. And then, despite Marie's bad habit of overspending, they lived a pretty normal life. They were strong churchgoers, community workers. They were well loved here in town. But what they didn't know was that deep down inside, Marie was hiding a very dark personality. You see, what happened was suddenly in the 70s, and there is a loud sound system that sounds totally disgusting. But going back to the subject, in the early 70s, all of a sudden, Mike Hilley, her son, started having these excruciating stomach pains, which doctors could not find a cure or a cause for his symptoms. And Marie would constantly nurture her children, care for them, and pretty much try her best to be a mother and nurse them back to health. However, Mike soon left for college, and all of a sudden, his symptoms mysteriously vanished, and there was no explanation for it. However, in the meantime, his father, Frank Hilley, developed, what's that? Yeah, we'll cross here.
See, and you might want to let your viewers know this is a Sunday, and in this part of the country on Sunday it's Bible Belt. Consider everything's closed, nothing open.
Yes, that's
Just
why.
a ghost town.
That's why it's so dead around here. But it's a nice little town. But going back to the topic here, with Mike away from home, Frank developed a mysterious stomach ailment, which again, doctors could not find a cure or a cause for his problems. And at the same time, it appeared that his and Marie's marriage started falling apart because he had come home from work one day and found Marie, how do we say it, behaving inappropriately with one of her employers where she worked. And so Frank confided in Mike and said he was thinking about divorcing his wife. And according to Mike Hilley, if you look up interviews of him and stuff, he stresses how his mother placed a very high prominence on reputation and and a lot of prominence on and pride in the family name. And divorce was something that just would not be deemed viable in her books. So in the next few days, Frank's stomach ailment ended up becoming worse than ever, and he was admitted to the local hospital here in Anniston, where Marie stayed by his side, constantly fed him. He was so weak he didn't even want to eat, but she kept telling him, you know, you've got to eat, you've got to eat, you've got to build your strength back up, and I'll be here for you the entire way. Well, Frank ended up passing away. And there is a log I'm about to trip over. And the official cause of death from the autopsy was labeled as hepatitis. Little did anybody know that this was only the beginning.
Then you started going downhill after that.
Downhill after that. That's a good way to say it.
Right.
Look at this old drugstore, Rexall Drugs. Also kind of ties in with the subject. Because going back to everything, after Frank passed away, Marie spent very little time mourning for her husband. She quickly collected his life insurance policy. I think it was valued at like $20,000. Don't quote me on that. But it was a substantial amount of money back then. And she quickly lavished herself in fancy clothes, bought a brand new fancy car, and bought the most expensive jewelry in the world. And her finances were pretty much falling apart. Now, in the meantime, Carol developed the same stomach symptoms that her father and her brother had experienced. And little did anybody know that Marie had just insured Carol's life for, I think, $25,000. And Mike, meanwhile, had moved to Florida and was married and had a young son of his own. And Marie apparently was opening up all of these credit card accounts with the promise that her own son would pay them back. So Mike, meanwhile, down in Florida, started getting all of these phone calls, these angry phone calls from credit card companies wanting their money. And so he did the only thing he could do. He returned here to Anniston and confronted his mother and told her that she needed to accompany him to the bank to cash in his father's stocks so that she could pay her son back. And when she refused, he told her, I'm going to pick you up physically and put you in the car and take you to the bank. She said, okay, but let's eat some breakfast first. She agreed, but she wanted to eat breakfast first. She cooked Mike breakfast, and Mike claimed that he got sicker than he had ever been before. And he returned quickly and recovered quickly and returned to Florida. However, Carol's condition completely worsened. Her mother visited her, was there every day, gave her a few injections of something that her friend supposedly told her would help. And eventually, Carol's condition worsened so badly to the point where she became paralyzed from the waist down. Well, as the story continues, one day while at the hospital tending to Carol, Marie happened to be arrested for passing bad checks. Nobody realized this at the time, but the arrest most likely saved Carol Hilley's life. Now, shortly after Marie's arrest, Mike Hilley was talking to a friend of his sister's who told him that Carol had mentioned something about injections that his mother had given her. And so Mike, therefore, demanded that the hospital staff re-examine Carol. And upon re-examining her, they discovered a telltale sign of arsenic poisoning, which happens to be unmistakable white lines across the fingernails. And it was then discovered that Marie had been poisoning her daughter this entire time, which was the cause of her sickness and her symptoms. Meanwhile, Mike Hilley was forced to confront the unthinkable. He was forced to confront the idea that his mother had probably murdered his father. So, Mike requested the court system to have his father's body exhumed for a second autopsy. And surprisingly, Marie signed consent to have this done. However, just 3 weeks before the results were released, Marie Hilley skipped town. And the revised cause of death for Frank Hilley, arsenic poisoning. So an arrest warrant was immediately issued for Marie Hilley, charging her with the murder of her husband and the attempted murder of her daughter. I'm currently at the Forest Lawn Memorial Gardens here in Anniston. I was trying to find where the Hilleys are buried at to finish off the vlog. However, I don't know exactly which area is theirs. I know it's the Garden of Devotion, but there's no areas that are labeled for each area of the cemetery. So what I might have to do is I might have to come back first thing tomorrow morning before Steve and I leave Alabama and head back home. So I think that's what we might do, because I don't think I'm gonna get anywhere fast today because the cemetery, the office is closed on a Sunday. So I think we might just come back tomorrow before we leave Alabama. We'll continue the rest of the vlog tomorrow with the cemetery, but for now, let's take a trip to an awesome place here in Talladega, Alabama. The Talladega Super Speedway. We'll go in there, just on the grounds, and we'll take a look around. Now, we cannot get into the actual track, but we can get on to the premises. So let's go take a look around, shall we? So it appears as though this is the closest we can get to the racetrack, and it's not very far in from where we just came from. But over this hill here, right over there, if you were to climb up that little hill and look down, you would see the racetrack. Last week was the Talladega races, and this place was packed full of spectators and racers and campers alike for trying to compete to win the Talladega Championship, NASCAR. And the swamp is beeping at me. But yeah, and that's security right there. Obviously, we can't get too close. But over here is the camping area. That's where the RVs park and the campers. And as a matter of fact, over there, you can't see it very well, but that little archway right there, sorry, my finger and focus, right there is where the cars, the NASCAR cars, are brought in. And again, I apologize for the shaking. And you can hear in the distance a car racing around the track. This place is monumental in NASCAR history. Pretty cool. There's the signs to the areas looking the opposite direction. The I-20 interstate, credentials, operations, turn 3 tunnel, the Alabama gang, super stretch, and South Park. Those are over there where we were just looking. And you can hear the car coming back around. Just listen. Kind of follow the sound here with the camera. Yep, there it goes. Talladega Super Speedway. Flash forward to the next day. It is now April 29th, 2024. And I am back at the cemetery. This time I was able to go in to the office and get the directions to the final resting place of Marie Hilley. Now, as I mentioned before, where I left off yesterday, a warrant was issued for her arrest. She fled Anniston, and then she ended up surfacing, flaunting a new name named Robbie Hannon in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, of all places, my home state, go figure. But she met this gentleman named John Homan. She fell in love with him. They decided to go back to John's area of New Hampshire. They got married, and she lived a regular life with him. And then a few years later, she told her second husband that she was diagnosed with a terminal illness. She flew alone down to Texas to supposedly get treatment for this cancer that she had, or brain tumor. And then about a month later to 3 months later, John Homan received a phone call from a lady claiming to be Robbie's twin sister. And she said Robbie had passed away and the body had been donated to science. There was really nothing that he could do. So Terry Martin flew from Texas back to New Hampshire to bring a note that Robbie had left for her second husband. Well, John Homan did not, was taken aback by the fact that she was apparently, Terry Martin was apparently Robbie Hannon's twin sister. And it turns out Marie Hilley had lost 15 pounds and dyed her hair blonde and returned to New Hampshire as her own twin sister. And John Homan accepted Terry at face value. They lived together for 2 months until the description of Terry Martin just happened to match one of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives. She was arrested, taken into custody, and it was only then that her real identity was revealed. Terry Martin, aka Robbie Hannon, turned out to be none other than Marie Hilley, the Black Widow of Anniston. The incredible thing about it, though, is that when she was arrested, she was extradited back down here to Alabama to stand trial. She was sentenced to life in prison. Then she was given a 3-day furlough pass to leave the jail, and she fled, only to die 8 days later from prolonged exposure to the cold. It was an unusually cold season here in Alabama, and she passed away from exposure to the cold. Now, her second husband, John Homan, believe it or not, after all she had done, he remained loyal to her. He moved down here to Anniston to be near his wife's side, and he would visit her every week at the prison. And then he got a job. Apparently, he got a job. This is just hearsay, but he got a job at a local hotel. And from what I've been told, he then was murdered by either drug runners or something else. I don't remember, but don't quote me on that. If you know the real facts about John Homan, please leave it in the comment section. I'd really appreciate it. But I'm back here at the cemetery, and I have found the final resting place of Marie Audrey Audrey Marie Hilley, and it's right over there. Let's go check it out. There it is, Hilley. And believe it or not, she is laid to rest with her first husband that she brutally murdered by arsenic poisoning, Frank A. Hilley, 1929 to 1975. And we have Marie F. Hilley, 1933 to 1987. That is quite a story. A little history, actually big history, in a small town of all places called Anniston, Alabama. Both murderer and the murdered laid to rest together. Kind of creepy in a way. I don't understand why they laid them to rest side by side when she brutally murdered him. That is a strange thing to wrap your head around. Would you be able to sleep at night thinking about this? Well, folks, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me again. Thank you to my awesome manager, Steve Joyner of Thresher PR, for joining me on this incredible adventure. We are now taking off. We are leaving Alabama. It's been a great weekend, and I'm glad I could share this story with you, as well as the Talladega Super Speedway. Be sure and check me out on Facebook, Instagram, and please subscribe to the channel. Give it a like, give it a thumbs up, give it a bell, poke me, tweet me. Well, I don't have Twitter, but you know what to do. See you guys. The vlog is over.
This is the Alabama. It's like a clothing store. It's called Bama Wear.
Yeah.
Where they have all things Alabama. But we are in Alabama, and another big school here that's called Auburn. Let's see if they have any merchandise, okay?
All right, sounds good.
We'll go ask him. I don't want to ask him. Go ask him. Be nice, okay?
Hello.
I'll be nice. Hi, do you guys have any Auburn merchandise?
No, we do not. Get out of the store.
I was just asking.
This is only a Bama store. Did you not read the sign?
I didn't know what Bama Wear meant. I'm from Florida. I'm sorry.
Oh, wow. He's digging a deeper grave.
Yeah, I'm sorry. All right, thank you.